all do like a little introduction? Or Scotty, you could do a little introduction about yourself. Nothing crazy, just so people know who you are.
Yeah. All right, man. Yeah, Scotty. Just good looking loser. I've been in the. I guess I've been in the industry for like since 2008. I discovered it, and then I just from age like 22 to I'd say about 28, I was just all in on this stuff, and it was just going out every day.
Right. Well, when you first got into game, where were you living?
I was in New York, like Long Island area, about
Okay.
25, 30 minutes from the city.
Yeah. So I lived in the city for like 7 years. Jesse also lived there too. Yeah.
You
New
guys
York
Yeah,
is a
actually
really
had a
good
place
place.
in the city. You guys had a place in Manhattan.
I grew up in Jersey actually, so right by New York City. I lived in the city for like from when I was like 23 till 29, about.
That's fucking dope, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. I feel like you definitely have to go to a big city if you're starting out. But Scotty, for today's topic, one topic that everybody wants to know about is flirting. So we'll make that the topic for today is just flirting. So why don't we start off with I think that background you gave us, if given what you've done in the community, you definitely are probably one of the best guys in terms of flirting out there. You seem kind of like you come off natural when you flirt. A lot of guys do not come off natural when they flirt and they struggle with it. And flirting is such a huge part of game.
Mm.
So let's start there on how to flirt. Techniques to flirting that maybe you've adopted that might be different to ours, and then we could go from there.
Sounds good, man. Yeah. Flirting. Yeah, because dude, like at the very beginning, guys were given a bunch of stacks and routines and things to like keep your conversation going with the women so that you don't hit those like dull moments. And I personally was not my strength was not like my verbal bag, so to speak, but I could drop at her. It was like I immediately as quickly I could give you like 5 good minutes of really good material, and then I quickly had to like try to escalate and make it physical. That's kind of what I was inclined to do to begin with, because I was like, wait a minute, I noticed if I touch her and stuff like that, I can want to just move this process along as quickly as possible, or I would eventually just run out of things to say, or, I would just eject her eventually at the beginning. But like, and a lot of my blowouts at the beginning, it was either 5 minutes in. If she was going to hook, she was going to be a hook. If not, I'm usually on to the next one. That was kind of what I adopted early on. And I think the best way to really flirt for me personally was not to drop a bunch of like stuff at her and witty lines. And some of that stuff may work for some guys, but for me, it was mainly just, I was more serious, I guess. I would pop a joke here and there to lighten it up a little bit. But, for the most part, it was like, you're either going to fuck me or you're not. And I kind of played off that. I did try like what some of the other students were doing and using some of the routines and funny lines, but it just didn't feel natural for me. So I like immediately bypassed a lot of that nonsense, and I was getting quick results because guys were not even willing to do what I was quickly doing in the early stages. Whether it was just screening her like very quickly or while I introduced myself, the approaches were mainly warm to begin with. I would just walk up to anyone, but like for the most part, they were pretty warm approaches, whether it was like the initial eye contact and a smile and a sly look from her or something like that. And then it was very easy at that point. You just introduce yourself, and she's just smiling. Your intention's clear. You can't, I was not ashamed of giving a lot of compliments. You're fucking hot. Whatever the moment called for, I would definitely go direct with it. Give her some sort of compliment, whether it's where it really does feel natural. And I would just hold her hand for a while, and then I would just move it from there. I would isolate her. I would move her into a corner. I would try to get her. First of all, I would just read the room, see how many friends she's with. If I have to, engage with the group. If not, if it's not an issue, then I would just continue to escalate and see what she was doing for the rest of the night. I may take her to the bar and have a drink with her. But it was like game on right from jump. You don't want to ever just walk up and take the role of like I'm going to be, I need to really win this girl over, like it, with my wit and charm and everything like that. Or I'm coming from a friend perspective. Like it was never about that. You're coming as like almost a sexual, I don't want to say predator, but you're coming as like you're hunting or something. Like she just knows what's up. That was the vibe I always gave off. And it was congruent with my actions as well. Like if I'm doing that, for me personally, like not touching her would almost feel weird. I made it to a point where if I wasn't doing anything, I would feel like creeped out within it. She would be kind of creeped out. If I didn't move it along pretty quickly with mainly my verbal escalation, it would just be weird. It would come off as weird. It wasn't congruent with who I was and what I was doing generally. I didn't have, some guys are naturally more prone to be really witty guys and have that natural charisma, which is amazing. Like some guys I've seen guys who are really good at that, and they play on that, and they can get a girl in the whole circle laughing and smiling, and then he uses even some guys who are really feminine, and they can, quickly turn it around in their favor, which is impressive. So you really have to, you just find out what really works for you. But for me personally, it was, I didn't have all the wit and charm, and I would pop a joke if it was getting too aggressive, I would calibrate back down a little bit and scale it back if necessary. If I was moving too fast, I would just scale it back a little bit, and maybe I would end up settling for a number or something like that. But a lot of it is from woman to woman. There's some girls that are in heat that are ready to go, and certain guys would totally miss those opportunities because they're wasting time doing all this other stuff when, there's so many that were ready to go. And those are some of the pros of my approach. There are some drawbacks. You're going to get a lot, you might get more rejections, but the pros are that you'll definitely capitalize as quickly as possible. You'll get a lot of quick play for sure. And that's what I noticed, whether it was bringing girls to cars very quickly. I remember getting blowjobs in my car was like at times my second, it was one of my primary options to take a girl, in the backseat of the car, because it was like the idea was to build a sexual tension so high, so ready to go. This guy's ready to go. She's ready to go. You don't necessarily need to make out. That's selective if you want, but if she's like, oftentimes a girl, I may pull her hair a little bit. I'll be like, you smell really good. I'll see how far along I can push it and be like, let's get out of here. And you don't even need to verbalize that sometimes. You literally could just take her by the hand and lead her into, a car, or have a place in mind. You should always, before you go out, have a place in mind that, okay, this is where we're taking them tonight. We have a spot, that we're this close to the venue so that we could just, obviously logistics make a big difference. But if you want to use your car could be a primary way to take girls.
Yeah, I think you touched on some key points there. Well, two key points for flirting. I think the first one was the DTF vibe she gives. I think the more DTF she is, I'll give you an example of what I mean by DTF, because not every girl is DTF. Some girls are just, they're basically forced to go out because it's their girlfriend's birthday and maybe she's just having a really shitty day. But like some girls that are DTF, for example, let's say she just broke up with her boyfriend and she's like in hot girl summer mode, she's more likely to be way more flirty, right? So she has to carry that flirty interaction too. So that there's levels to the flirting too. I mean, if you go up to her, she's already super flirty right off the bat because she's having a hot girl summer type of deal, it makes it easier for you to reciprocate that. But then it gets harder. I think what guys have problems with is the first thing is screening. All right, who's DTF, right? I'm screened for a DTF, and then they don't screen well enough. Well, maybe she's a 9 or maybe she's a 10, but she's not too DTF, and they spend too much time with her and they don't end up closing versus, set a second date with her, get her number, maybe grab a drink with her and have a good time with her. And then, but if it's not going to close, you have to move on and like kind of screen for those DTF vibes and then move on to maybe like a little 7 who's a lot more DTF that is trying to fuck you that night and is reciprocating like those flirty vibes. And I think what is happening when guys like, how are you guys flirting so well with these girls? That's half the equation. The other half of the equation is once you really master kind of female psychology and the flirting aspect of it, you can make any girl flirt with you. Like they can just start reciprocating that flirting with you. So that's a super important part that you touched on. There was a DTF. I've been screening for that, right? Because that makes it easier for you as a guy. Okay, I'm like, go with this one. She's way more fun, so it's going to make it easier for me to show her fun as well. So it goes both ways. That's what I tell guys all the time. And then the second point that you touched on that I also agree with was
screening. Let me just interject. Screening and reading women become easier and easier as you go out. Like the more you go, it doesn't take like a year to be good at that. You can get really good at that just walking around a venue and quickly seeing the ones that are liking you really quick. Like don't spend time. That's the problem with guys at the beginning, especially if you're not good at this. You'll spend an hour buying this girl drinks or just trying to charm her and wit her, and she's not DTF, and you know it. And it's like you're just wasting so much time on her, or you don't think you can machine, almost go up to 20. You have to almost be willing to go up to like 20 to 30 girls that night if you have to. You know what I mean? So that's also an issue. Some guys don't even have the capability of doing that. If you do have the capability of doing that, then just go. You have to be able to sense them and weed them out, like you said. And there's no remedy outside of experience, really.
Yeah, I think that especially it depends on. I mean, that's why every guy is different. Like you have some guys that are very natural and very charismatic with people just in general, so it's easier for them to bring a good vibe out of the chick. Versus a guy who grew up maybe he's a little bit on the spectrum, or maybe he's just a little weird. He grew up kind of like a what do you call like an outcast type of deal, and he never really got like that experience of having your first girlfriend at 15 or whatever. Then that guy should talk to as many girls as possible before even thinking about hooking up with a chick. Is just kind of get comfortable talking to them. But yeah, I think flirting is one of the most common questions. I think every boot camp that we've
had. Can you
had.
repeat that again? You think the young guy starting out should basically, speaking to a lot of women trumps just settling down with one? Is that your point? Is that's a better strategy, so to speak?
No. I was saying like if you're new to this and you just found out about game or you're trying to improve your lifestyle with women, what I'm saying is before you even think about hooking up with a girl or getting a girlfriend, you should kind of just talk to them and see what they're like. Because a lot of guys have never even had an interaction with a chick.
Right, that's fair.
What I mean? Like they don't even know what a girl thinks, or like they really see them as like this other species. That's not the truth. So if you're in this situation, you should just go out and talk to as many females as possible and get comfortable with doing that. Once you get comfortable doing that, then you could implement, the next level of game and learning how to flirt and stuff like that. But yeah, that's what I was saying. But on another note, I do think that if you're young, you should definitely date around. You don't have to sleep with girls, right? You don't have to fuck every girl you come across. But I would say you definitely have to date around, because girls can be so sneaky sometimes, dude. Like I don't think I've met a virgin since after I turned like 18. You know what I mean? And if you're like a new guy, yeah. And if you're like a new guy, dude, and you just fucking come out here and you're a new dude that's never talked to women, you will get played. Like she will take advantage of you. It's just in their nature, right? Like that's how women get ahead. It's just like manipulating men, manipulating around, because that's their forte. Right, we used to fight back in the day. Like we used to be barbarians, and like that's how we dominated. Women would dominate through manipulation shit. So if you don't know like these type of things, you might end up with your heart broken, and you might end up being gaslighted all the time, a bunch of shit. So that's what I'm saying. Like really get to understand female psychology and how they behave and what a truly a good girl looks like before you decide to settle down with the specific chick.
Sure. Yeah, it could be that the women also like it's underneath the surface, but everything is like a reflection of sex almost. Like before you even go into the venue or anything with girls are sizing you up immediately to know whether or not she's down to fuck. Like 30 seconds in or maybe a minute in, you're like, all right, I'll probably fuck this. I would fuck this guy or whatever. I think that stuff happens really quickly, and it's always there. It's like always there, whether you think you're friend zoned or not, or I'm just gonna, speak to her just to get the experience, or I do agree with that, though. I do think you need a lot of interactions with women, but I certainly think I bypassed a lot of that.
Yeah.
I would get caught up in some long interactions at times, especially when noticing that I'm in a bad logistical situation or I'm just not,
Yeah.
I'm kind of like lonely and I don't have companionship. I'll end up like just talking to these girls endlessly and it goes nowhere because there's a conflict within me at that point because I want to get, I'm like thirsty and then you're also talking to these women. So it's like, that's almost always there underneath the surface. Like, I want to fuck you. Like, that's always there, whether it's expressed or not. So you can end up in these really long discussions or conversations with women, and it's just like you wonder why. Like, dude, I'm so frustrated. Or if I clients say that, like, so it happened to me. You just like, I'm frustrated or something. I'm like, well, what are you doing? You're just talking to women, and it could go, you haven't addressed the elephant in the room. There's like an elephant in the room. Everybody knows it's like, you want to fuck this girl. So in most of my situations, that's how it is. I don't know. What do you think about that, Brandon?
No, would you say like for you flirting, a lot of it comes down to escalating?
Yeah. Maybe a witty remark here and there, or
Right.
not just like, "Hey, you want to fuck" or something like that. But at times, I guess if that's what you feel, if she's that hot for you, that might work, or that might actually blow it. So I'm never usually that direct with it, but I might, if I know the girl's down, be like, um, well, let's get out of here. Let's have a drink. You fucking, you smell really good, or just like sometimes indirectly doing it. You don't even need to really just verbally say it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
But
yeah, I think,
you said you compliment girls too, which I agree with too. A lot of guys be like,
yeah.
especially these red pill guys today, like, oh, you can't compliment women. I think that's a total BS. Like,
It might be, it might be the case. Once they see me usually in action or something, they're like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense. It's congruent with what you're doing." But like, yeah, maybe it's not the best if you're not amping it up real quickly or something, or touching them. It might not be the best strategy. You might have to just experiment a little bit and see what works for you. But like, yeah, if I was never, dude, I'm like groping this girl and she's pretty reciprocating the energy, then yeah, you could just say whatever the fuck you want. You smell really good, or kiss her or whatever. You look. I've been known to give a lot of compliments for sure. I definitely been known to do that.
yeah, like we
But
said,
it's congruent with my actions. It's
right,
congruent with me like either touching her or escalating pretty quickly.
right. Like we said earlier, like some girls are just ready faster than other girls for that,
Yeah.
But it's also important. Something you touched on was like, if you hit a roadblock, you pull back from there. You don't just keep pushing into it. A lot of guys,
Hmm.
they don't really realize that. Um, they'll do something, and then maybe they'll, even if you fuck up and say you did something wrong and you notice the girl reacts a certain way, the best thing to do is just keep going and not like actually harp on what happened. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure, dude. For sure.
Yeah, I
The
think
slow goers, I definitely have a tough time with. Sometimes, like, I don't have a lot on my book on my notch belt like that were like, yo, I ended up scoring like a month later with this girl just from like the slow game. Like, I don't, it's either like first date, second date, and that's that. This girl's a no goer, and then she's just doing it for attention. I just tend to like lose interest in these women that are gonna like sit there and want to talk for weeks and weeks and have all these like issues. They're all issued up, with like time, a week or 2 weeks or something like that. I don't know. I haven't had tons of success with that.
I think that's a double-edged sword on that topic because if she's a legitimately good girl, like legitimately really awesome girl, and she just holds off, she doesn't give it easy, and you are able to scan for that and kind of gauge for that, then I think waiting those 2 weeks might be worth it if you're looking for like a long-term relationship.
Mhm.
But you tell me you just went to Miami last weekend and then you're playing the long game. I'm not gonna fucking put up with that. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if I know you hone the pass and you're trying to play that on me, I'm not gonna put up with that. But I think it depends on the chick and the situation just in general, and to see if I would legitimately wait or whatever. Like if all her friends are single is another example. You know what I mean? It's likely that they're all getting ran through together.
And
So
typically, when I end up doing stuff like that, it's coming from like a scarce place, and They don't get like the best version of me, and I usually become like unattractive at that point because it's like it's just not who I really feel like I am. It's an unauthentic version. I start to slowly, if you're putting this girl in the slow category in the long game box, it's like you start to pedestalize this one woman. Meanwhile, you could just move on quickly. And I don't know and from my experience, it's not like she's a good girl, bad girl. I don't know. I've had some pretty healthy relationships with girls that I've stayed with for like over 2 years, and I was very happy with the relationship. And I think I fucked her on the second date or third date or something like that. I think that's pretty normal,
Yeah, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. Like I've had amazing girls that if a girl gives it up to you like on the first night or whatever,
Yeah,
it doesn't mean she's a bad girl either. You know what I mean?
exactly.
The same way that if a girl makes you wait 2 weeks doesn't mean that she's been a good girl in her past. It's the same way. Like, if she gives it up the first night or the second night, it doesn't mean that she's necessarily a fucking whore. Maybe you just vibe that well with her and the sexual connection was there and she hasn't felt that before, because that does happen. Where I've met chicks that, they necessarily never give it up, and then I'm able to kind of connect with them, and then they give it up and they feel like kind of almost like, fuck, now this guy's gonna leave me type of deal. But you can figure out which way she is. And I mean, it's kind of hard to tell like what her true intentions are and what her past has been. So you've got to ask a lot of questions. Like you got to get on discovery mode. And that's true about this chick. If you want to go either way, because girls can deceive you. It's just, you just look at the small factors that will really tell you she's been a good girl or a bad girl in the past.
And listen, the girls want to complain about dudes being so lame in these interview style dates and dinner dates. And they just, they're almost, I think every girl has this fantasy of like, being totally swept off her feet and the mystery of it. And it's almost unconscious attraction that she's like, oh my God, like, what did I just do? My clothes are off. Oh my God. Within 5 minutes, like, that's amazing. Like you just got her out of her logical mind and everything like that. And it's like, she's totally, in dream world right now. It's like, holy shit, I can't believe we just fucked, like, oh my God. So, you can't categorize some of these girls. Some of the fucking prim and proper girls that you would think are like doing some of the wildest shit within like the first day or two. So yeah, it's hard to say, dude. Like I respect the girl if she has a hard no on fucking dudes on the first date, that's fine. But it doesn't mean
like
shit.
how recent is that rule? Did you apply that rule after going through 50 dudes? You know what I mean?
The reason that rule became is because some guy fucked her over on the first date, and now it's like
now it's a rule. Now it's a rule.
That was me, right? But so I do agree with that. It just it depends. But another thing with the flirting that guys, or with game in general, and I even hate calling it game, but another thing in general that guys have a misconception with is that you have to do one thing once and then you move on to the next thing, and they treat it like a workflow. Like, oh, but I did everything. I did 1, 2, and 3, and why am I still not getting results? When in reality, it's like you're doing a little bit of everything along the way, even after you close or you pull it home, or whatever. You're still kind of flirting with her. You're still spending a little game. But that's one of the most common things. Is like, okay, can you give me like a couple lines? And then we give them a couple flirting lines, and they apply them, and they're like, oh, how come it's not working as well for you? It's like as well for me as it's for you. Mm-hmm. It's because they forget to continuously, flirt with her and continuously pull back on her and continuously do all these things, and just kind of, it's never a straight line to the end goal. And I think that's what guys get wrong about flirting. They think that 1 or 2 flirting lines will do it. Being witty once or twice will do it. And I think that's what kind of really messes up with them.
Give me some lines or something. Give me some lines that it's so hard for me, like to sit here and say like certain things. I guess flirting with me sometimes is compliment based or quickly and stuff along those lines. I may tease her a little bit, pull back a little bit, and then, I may do some basic teasing and things of that nature. But,
and I think also flirting, it's, a lot of things. I know that flirting is not just vocal stuff, flirting, especially because women are such emotional treating individuals that they feel everything, like what you say, what you do, how you look at them, how you speak to them. So really, flirting is like a combination of everything, which is the verbal, the tonality, what you're actually saying, how you're looking at her. And flirting is not just like fun all the time. It could be serious flirting. You could put on the fucking boyfriend shoes and the dad shoes on, and they fucking love that shit too. So flirting is such a complicated topic that always comes up every single time. So
That's interesting, man. Yeah, I don't hear that too often because I think at first I just tell guys like, they don't come to me really asking for a bunch of lines, but they'll just shadow me for a while and just maybe just being around that vibe for some of the best teachers. You just want to be around these guys, and soak some of their energy in or whatever that is, and just watch very closely what they're doing. And it may not work for you. Then you take some of the things that are working really well from the guy's approach, and then you kind of tailor it to yourself. I could say like, oh, tell that girl this or that. Like you guys said, it's not how you say it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
yeah.
So if a guy's like just saying, all right, bro, I'm going to say exactly what Scotty says, but I'm not going to, it might just fucking totally drown in that. It might be a total waste. So,
And I think it also depends on the chick. Like girls, it's never going to be the same flirting lines unless I think the most common one we give guys is when you ask her where she's from, and she's from like way out wherever, and we tell them to say, oh, you just came all the way down here to see me. So like that's one of them that could be applied no matter who you are. But for the most part, that's like one of the only ones that you can apply no matter where you're from, because every girl is going to communicate differently. Every girl is going to be flirty in a different way, and so like you're going to get different types of reactions from her and that you could come off of. Flirting is just, I think the key to becoming a really good flirt naturally and being more charismatic is to have those interactions with women and really practice and hone in on that skill.
Sure. I think it's fun. Like, I mean, some of these guys I listen to, they strategically break it down. I'm like, oh shit, I'm already like doing a lot of this stuff. So I guess at times I am natural. I just haven't like, at times I haven't like broke it down that way where I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm already doing that, or I'm already doing that. There's this other guy, I think Playing with Fire. He's got a lot of good like tips as far as like things, he's very smart with it. Like, oh fuck it, I just chuckled to myself. I'm like, I've been doing that for like so many years. Like I didn't even know I was doing half of this shit, but it's cool when somebody sits back and like says, okay, that like, when you break it down and say, okay, you just did that, or you just did this. So that's interesting.
Yeah. And that's the thing about, that's deadly about, well, it's kind of like there's two sides to it, because a lot of guys that are in game, when they come across a natural, rather than looking at the natural and kind of learning from that person, they start making excuses as to why they can't get there. Because it's very likely that if you're a natural as a guy, you grow up with certain features or certain skills that put you ahead of the pack in some way, shape, or form. And now, because of that, growing up, you built more attraction, and because of that, you had more interactions with females, and because of that, now you're a natural, more charismatic. So I think a lot of guys, they look at a natural and they're like, oh, well, he's just getting girls because he's tall, because he's an athlete or whatever. When in reality, it's because he always has been that guy. He's been that guy his whole life, and he's just used to talking to girls, and he really understands how to spike their emotions, like what gets them going. And rather than like take a step back and observing these guys, they just would rather make excuses for themselves and not go like analyze them and learn from them.
Yeah, that's so true, dude. There could be in any field, like whether it's bodybuilding or sports or anything like that too. Guys who are like so good, but they never really went and just pursued it all out. But they're fucking like, dude, this guy had all the ability in the world to be like a fucking megastar. So yeah, I think I wouldn't necessarily call myself natural, but I do think certain things did come easier for me than the rest, or especially at the boot camps and stuff and working with guys. Like once I threw myself in the fire and started making a ton of approaches and really spending hours on this stuff and hours on the, trying to get girls and dates and all this shit, just really jumped all in. Yeah. A lot of this stuff just came naturally. Like, okay, so she's doing this, so that's doing that. All right, I'm going to do this. I'm gonna, like, there's just more. You're involved with it. You're living that lifestyle. That's why a lot of guys come back and they've taken so many years off. I'm like, oh fuck, a lot of my that you will be rusty, but like some of the fundamentals do remain safe. Yeah, like dude, I was pretty hesitant to jump back in it, dude. I was like 7 years removed from this stuff. And I did end up taking a fine on. And once I got back into it, I was blown away at how quickly some of this stuff just came back to me. You know, slept with a new girl each night in LA. Like I was just blown away. I was like, whether or not I wanted to keep doing this. And I'm like, damn, this shit, some of these fundamentals or whatever I did to rewire it, or if it's part of, you know, being naturally good at it once I get the ball rolling. Yeah, I mean, so I was really happy to see that it doesn't go away. It didn't go away for me.
Yeah, I think it's like once you master the skill, you'll never forget.
Like a lot of guys will say, oh, my product's outdated or the mystery method's outdated. Well, maybe because it wasn't that good or it's too systematic or I have no idea. But some dudes have said that to me. They're like, oh, I've been away from this for so long. My shit is so outdated. Well, if it's outdated, you know, maybe you should have got the fundamentals down pat. I always preach that at the beginning, like your tonality, your delivery, your body language, like just that walk about you, you know, get a good look that you feel confident about, you know, just the basic fundamental stuff. That stuff will go with you, you know, that transcends time. That transcends this generation, that generation. I think just the basic fundamental, you know, killer instinct vibe that you can have.
And I think the biggest fundamental, and I think what Mystery was trying to teach, this is really the biggest fundamental you can learn is truly understanding what she's feeling at all times. That is the biggest fundamental. Like the purpose, again, I tell guys all the time when we run our camps is the purpose isn't to get you laid. That's just a side effect of understanding what chicks are thinking and feeling at all times. Yeah, because if you really truly understand that deep down and get an understanding of okay, how she's feeling, what is she thinking about, what spikes your emotion, what doesn't, you're just gonna start fucking drowning in pussy. Versus guys go out like, oh, I want to get fucking laid, and they just look at chicks like a fucking, like not even human, you know, like I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and she's gonna react like this, and then they leave I guess the space for a long time. They come back and they haven't mastered that fundamental of understanding girls to the core, and then they just struggle like tremendously.
Yeah, I've been to a few of these boot camps, and they spend way too much time. If there's a pie chart, they spend way too much time on the pie chart breaking down verbal game before you even interact with girls. So you're not letting guys practice their improv skills. First of all, like a lot of my stuff is like, damn, it's on, comes out right then and there. Or like this girl triggered this reaction in me to say like this is what was called for. If, first of all, that's more enjoyable. Secondly, it'll start to feel very unnatural and very robotic where you'll say, I'm not a natural, because maybe you're not a natural because you read this guy's verbal, you took all the, they used to call them stacks, verbal stacks and conversational pieces. And now you don't feel like a natural. Well, you never gave yourself a chance to get out there and just riff off of this girl and see what you're, use your own brain and just fucking think of, comment on her outfit or whatever, see what she's up to. Just riff off of it will feel more natural. You know what I mean? And that's important.
Yeah. And I always tell guys that. I think it's, sorry, Brandon, go ahead.
No. One thing I wanted to mention. Wait, just my brain shut off for a second. No, go ahead. I'll come back to it.
Yeah. No, I think what we tell guys all the time, and I think this just so they can get used to it, because I think it goes like there's some guys that they're really good at following instructions, but they don't even care what the girl's feeling or thinking. They're just like, okay, I got to do this, and then do this, and then do that. That doesn't work. I've gone to the next girl and stuff, and they just kind of burn through the whole venue. And then on the other end, you have the guys that look into it way too much, and they get stuck in their head if something doesn't work out. And they just they just hit, like we call it the plague. They catch the plague. So we tell guys a lot of time is like, say whatever you want to say, right? Like start riffing it. Don't have any of this canned stuff, because then you won't really understand them. Start riffing it. Start just pulling audibles and saying whatever comes to your head. But then if you notice she doesn't react too well to it, or you notice that kind of put her off in some way, shape, or form, then you can calibrate a little bit and change it and change the approach to her. And I think that's what's going to really calibrate you into a better flirt, with these girls versus if you have this routine, these Ken lines at all times, and you want to do exactly what I'm doing, what Brennan's doing, what Scotty's doing, you'll never really learn everything. So,
because you're expecting the line, you're overlooking the woman's feet,
exactly,
overlooking everything, and you're expecting the line to work. You're expecting the line to do the work for you.
exactly.
You know, oh, that line's going to hit this third attraction trigger. No, like, yeah, because that's what makes a good coach, dude. Like that's why I think the value of a coach could be tremendous, or a really good wing or a really good coach, it could be tremendously valuable. Yeah, you could give them that instruction, bro. Like, yeah, go do that. See what comes to mind. I don't give a fuck if you compliment each girl on her shoes. Like, just don't worry about it too much. The intent that you're going to go flirt with her and unapologetically introduce yourself and see what she's up to tonight and see if she's DTF. And the idea is that so that you start to sniff out the girls who are into you really quickly. And that can really only come when you start to experience and feel the venue and feel the girls and go around there and see what they're about. Present yourself.
I'll be right back. Keep going. I'm gonna grab my charger.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of guys lack. Like, okay, if you're gonna say exactly what I'm saying, you better mimic my voice, my tonality, my fucking smile, the way I'm coming in, my body language. You better mimic everything, right. Because that's the only way it'll work. And a lot of the times, I think you guys are like, well, how'd you get them hooked so fast, or how'd you do this, how'd you do that? It's like, well, first of all, what like, can you replicate and mimic, the fundamentals, like my tonality, the way I'm coming in? Like my fun, right? My frame. I think frame is very underrated too and overlooked. It's like you got to have a strong frame yourself as well. Even if you say something fucking stupid, that you're enough. So yeah, that's what I always tell guys. Like, look, if you're going to mimic my lines, you better come in the same way I do, same tonality, same everything. But really,
I think the guys will have a tough time doing that with me, because oftentimes I do. I don't have a go-to or something like that. They could do that, but I think it really does change from time to time. It does.
Yeah.
It definitely does change moment to moment. I may say, "Oh, you didn't tell me you weren't going to tell me I was cute too," or something like that. I have no idea, but like sometimes I just say whatever comes to me.
Yeah, but, and that's the thing is, like, with time you'll start like getting quick on your feet, and I think that's why these guys pay for camps and stuff, because I can tell you what's going to work for me, but I can also tell you what's going to work for you. So, when I'm telling these guys at the camps, okay, go tell her this and say this, like word for word, and approach her from the side or up front, whatever, and it works for them. It's just because I truly understand their frame and who they are and what their strengths are. And then when they apply it, I think that's what makes for a great camp for these guys. It's like, you're teaching them their own unique way of spinning game versus like replicating it, which is like what a lot of coaches try to do, is like, you're going to flirt with the way I want you to do it and like all this and that, and they don't really understand what strengths and weaknesses these guys have.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
The one thing I was saying before was guys will get laid. Like, you could give them a bunch of lines and they will use those lines and maybe they'll get laid, but they don't really understand why they got laid. The why behind it.
Yeah.
Like, we as a coach, you want to get them to understand the why, because anyone can follow a bunch of lines and maybe it might work for them, but then they go back home and they're like, fuck, like, what the hell just happened? I got laid, but like, it's funny, we actually had a client recently, we basically fucking got him laid, like, it was so weird, like, we got him laid, okay? If we weren't there, no way he would have closed. Like, impossible.
Yeah.
He would have fucked it up somewhere. So like, we just kept whispering in his ear what to say, and we got him laid. And like, do I feel confident that he can go out now and just close every night? No, he still needs work on understanding why he got laid.
Yeah. That's why some of these, like I don't think. I don't know where this is going, but like, yeah, I mean, I think the coaching aspect should be like more along the lines of a personal trainer. Like, I mean, you have to, the more you can go, obviously, the better. The more you find a wing, the better you'll get that notices these things. I think just by virtue of being around me, this one Asian dude was like a 22-year-old virgin, 23-year-old. He ended up having a threesome the night he went out with me. Like, like you said, he didn't fight. He was just around me enough, and like he ended up doing some real ballsy shit, and he like took him out of the club, and he just led the way. I was like, make sure you utilize that you have a luxury apartment right down the block. Like, take advantage of that. Some guys don't even take advantage of the fact that they're in like a prime location to be like, dude, like bring it up if they're hooked and stuff and they're interested, bring that up within the first couple minutes of the conversation. If why wait, or plant that seed in their head that like, I'm going to have a few drinks back at my place. I've got, gorgeous luxury apartment down the block. Like, dude, it's amazing.
Yeah, we got a pool, so we're always like, yo, we're gonna have a little pool party after this. Just put that in their mind, and dude, it's amazing how many girls are down within like 10 minutes of talking to them.
Yeah.
We also want to. We never tell guys to like lie about their status or anything, which is we just made an interview about it with the guy Brandon was referring to. And can you guys see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Oh, that's weird. Yeah, with the guy that Brandon was referring to, it's like we never. I think a lot of coaches are like, oh, you need like DHV and like show like lie. Some guys are like, yo, you got to lie about your shit. And I think just because of that they just start like breaking their own frame, and then the smallest shit test, when you start lying about shit, breaks your frame immediately when you get caught, lying or whatever. But I think it's huge. I think utilizing whatever fortes you might have, like that guy, if he had a penthouse or whatever. Definitely leverage that.
Leverage it. Yeah, that's
leverage it 100%. Like if you have certain fortes, definitely leverage them. Like if if you're a great photographer, leverage that. Every single one of you guys has a skill that you can leverage. Everybody's different. Everybody's very unique their own way. So definitely leverage these unique qualities, attributes that you have.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
And what I liked about my coach actually initially at the beginning, he was this tall, lanky dude and totally didn't, jive with his, his stats and his approach really. But he was like, dude, he observed me closely and he knew that was like, we were totally different, in our styles. Not that he was getting laid, like, but, it just wasn't my thing. It wasn't coming natural to me to be like, to use any of these lines and things that he was using. And it actually kind of fit the way he looked. That's another thing. Like it looked congruent with this guy's style, like this tall, rocky, lanky guy. And he was kind of like, awkward kind of. And it like these goofy kind of like humorous things would kind of like the girls sense that he was being real, in a way. And, I just never felt comfortable with it. He was totally cool with it. And as a good coach, he was able to see that and be like, just keep doing what you're doing, dude. Like if you want to see, ask these girls directly, if you want to come watch you jerk off within the next 10 minutes, then do it. Like, like certain things like that. I was like getting the quick call, the quick hit, like, listen, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go into my car. If you want to come watch me, you can come watch me. I'm going to go take care of this regardless. And I've had girls be like, all right, fine. And they'll hop in the backseat of my car and they'll like agree internally. They think they're in control where they're like, but, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to make it, I'm not going to go all the way with them. But once you start doing that in front of her, be like, do you want, can you give me some spit? And immediately, usually girls start to go down on you really quickly, or it leads to a lot of other shit, like really quick, so some girls just need that gentle persuasion.
I had a girlfriend one time and it was like years ago when I was younger, and I still didn't know, like I had some like natural game, but I couldn't break it down like to save my life. I couldn't tell you what I was doing. And it's funny you mentioned that, because I would always ask her for head when she like wasn't in the mood. I go, oh, could I at least get some head? Because like they get so much, they get so into it that it just leads to something else. And I think eventually, it's funny, she goes at the end, like towards the end of the relationship, when I would ask her, she's like, what that makes me do. So it's funny because they do get into it, and they always like way more than they want to, I guess. So I guess that's the reason why they're trying to avoid it in the first place, right? Because they just can't control it, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. The moment you get them there, I mean, very rarely there's going to be a little bit of resistance, like initially. Like once you start escalating, she might she might pull back or whatever, and you just what is that? Wash, rinse, repeat a few times, and that's just the way it is. They're going up against like society, and their whole programming is to be like deflect, 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 protect, and then they really want to do it. Obviously, there's conflict within them because their bodies are giving them a totally different message. Like their pussy soaking wet. They're getting chills. They're like, they're like, oh, it's like this. You can almost see this big struggle within them, and you're just like, you're just trying to gently bring them along, and they'll eventually just give. Like the body usually wins out. Sometimes their mind will win out and be like, no, I just can't. It's a hard no. But that's logically thinking versus their body, which is telling them, yes, go. I want this. I want this. I want this. So
I think if they're logical, by the time you get to the bedroom, you did something fucking wrong. Like if they're logical, by the time you get back home,
right,
you hit me with some logical shit, you failed the first half of the interaction, bro. Like go back to the drawing board if you're getting a lot of those. But yeah, I do agree that like, the way the female brain works is like once they get going. Like,
yeah. That's why if you can just bring them along, like if they're out and they're fucking out with their girls night out, summer night or whatever, it's like, and if you could get a girl into your car and she's attracted to you and you're not just directly saying like, I want to fuck you right here. I'm like, yo, listen, I'm going to go jerk off anyway. If you want to come to my car and watch like that. And if you just lead her along, you know how many girls went into my car like really quickly just to watch and not do shit. Like that was like, you may say it's a ploy, but it's like, next thing you know, it's like, oh man, I need some spit. I need this. And they usually give me some spit or they'll go down on you within the first 5 to 10 minutes. It's like you touch them a little bit. It's actually worked quite a bit initially, for me. I felt very comfortable with it. It was like, I don't do that as much anymore. I should implement that more, but like at one summer like that, I was really all about trying to get girls in my car within a very quick period of time. Like I really, niched it down to just doing that for very like, for one summer, I was really like all about that. And I would move down because if you're all over the place and you're not focusing on one particular thing and you don't have like a goal in mind or something that you could really focus on that you believe in and that you think could absolutely work and get you some play if you're, on a dry spell or you want to leverage like a short amount of time and you want to get some play, like throw it out there, like focus. I'm a big believer in focusing on like one thing, having a little bit of a game plan and just working on that and honing in on that,
Yeah, I think that's definitely very unique to you. I think for most guys, if they said shit like that, bro, they'd catch a rape case like in a fucking minute, bro. So you know what I mean? I think again, it depends. Like if a guy tried to do that shit, they would get blown out immediately, bro. You know what I mean?
I kind of want to try it now, though. Like seriously.
Yeah,
no, I'm telling you, like, no, you're right though. I don't really like give my students that or clients that at all. I don't really advocate that unless the guy's very advanced and he wants to throw it. He's like having it. If he's at a, if he's stuck at a certain point and he's like, damn, dude, I'm having a tough time like getting her from here to there, and I want to be able to close like quickly right then and there. I may tell him, throw that out there if you're getting stuck at some point where she's not willing to go with you and you're trying to isolate her and she's unwilling to go, and I may have to, it depends on the student really, to be honest with you, but yeah, I typically don't like give guys that.
Yeah, no, because we do have guys that try to, or like just not our guys, but like just in general, like if a random dude who's never taken camp like listens to this and then implements that and then he starts getting blown out left and right, and be like, oh, what the fuck, how am I getting blown out? They said it would work. You know what I mean? It's like it depends. Like I could guarantee most guys here that your frame, Scotty, is definitely way stronger than the average dudes. First of all, and then the vibe that you're building with her right off the beginning is very kind of like sexual and has that dynamic. Like if to explain it verbally for guys, if you're listening to this, it's just when you have that type of dynamic where you just click. Like physically right off the bat, you can do shit like that. But most of the guys can't. For sure cannot do that. I can guarantee that.
Yeah, if you hone in on your look and you're congruent with what you're doing and you like own that shit, yeah, you can get far pretty quickly, man.
Yeah.
I just forgot what I was going to say, but there was something I was going to
No,
say.
there was something I wanted to mention. It was like, dude, I would say we're all above average looking guys here. And especially like you were saying, like you have that game. It's very forward, very sexual. It's congruent with who you are. Like, dude, you're fucking jack dude with muscles. You know, like it
Right.
works for you. If it was some fucking chubby ass guy, he was like, "Yo, coming all sexual," might not work for him. It all
Yeah,
matters about like who you are. That's another reason. Like, dude, some guy can copy our lines. It's not gonna work. Okay, because like he doesn't have
yeah,
the confidence. He doesn't have the delivery. He hasn't talked to 10,000 girls. He doesn't have that frame. So it's really
right.
interesting. Like, it's not just it just it. Those are things that you can't teach. That just comes with experience of talking to so many girls. You're never gonna get that
Absolutely.
confidence and like belief in yourself until you just put yourself through the fire. Some of it, at least.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, dude. Definitely, man.
Yeah, and I think that's why camps are helpful too. It's like you're not paying to fucking you're paying to understand it at the like at the end of the camp. You should definitely like obviously get the results you want, but being able to explain why you got the results you want, why shit works for you, and going home with shit that works for you, and not just like my shit. You know, I'm not sending, I'm not building replicas and clones of myself. I'm trying to make sure that I maximize. Like, okay, this guy is the forte. Like, that's what he's gonna hone in on. You know, if I really do hope I run across a Scotty, like a young Scotty. And I'm like, dude, this guy's just gonna fucking get head in his car 24/7. You know?
Dude, my first training session with when I paid like this guy a lot of money to work with him. I pulled a girl in my car, got a blowjob, and he was like, "Wow." He was like, he was like, he's like, "Why are you fucking paying me?" My first session with the dude, bro. It was like, and not too long after that, when he saw I was doing it, like it wasn't just a fluke or something. Not too long after that, he actually hired me, and he was just like, he knew I wasn't using his system at all, but he was like, he promoted me and marketed me as like, very quick seduction, and you guys can watch and try to, if you're really, really intrigued by that and you think you want to capitalize on that, this is the guy for you. He's very quick at escalating. Just watch. And but now they're implementing things which is really cool. Some camps that I think would be really beneficial is like you're miking these guys up and you're taking footage of them so you can actually, like a football game, like really dissect. I would be interested, even to just film me to see exactly what I'm doing. If I'm doing this unconsciously at times, I think it could be beneficial to break down film and be like, yo, okay, so now it makes a little more sense. I think more and more, 10, 15 years ago, that wasn't really implemented, but I think a lot of camps and coaches now are starting to implement that, which is really cool. It'd be nice to see yourself on tape and be like, yo, okay, you can improve on this, and this is what Scotty's doing here, and this is what you guys are doing. I think it's a good tool to use.
Yeah,
You know, it's
I
funny
might,
because we just started doing that.
yeah, just started
yeah,
recording. We just
I might
started
start doing that too. A lot of guys have asked for that, and I usually get a few of them, in set and stuff like that, but never to the point where we're really dedicated to it, and they're mic'd up, and I'm able to break down some of the shit the next day they're doing. Because I'm not going to be able to catch everything, so
Exactly.
that's the key.
And it's hard, and these venues are so fucking loud, bro. Like,
Yeah, you
let's
can't-
be realistic. When we go in these venues, I can barely even hear myself, let alone a dude that's 2 feet away from it. You know?
Oh yeah.
But no, I think these were good topics we covered. Flirting, what a good girl does, what a bad girl does, how to like screen for these chicks.
And we're like anti-red pill here, because if you listen to like some of these things, these guys are so big on like categorizing these sluts and 304. Dude, none of that's fucking real, dude. It really is a bunch of hogwash. If you have tons of experience with it, it's fucking bullshit, dude. It really is. Like, oh, this girl waited a week, so she's a good girl. No, maybe she would just fuck so many guys in a row that she's like, no, all these hard rules. Like,
Again, there's so much more. Like,
times, bro.
it's like there's so many fucking characters that are like so many things at play to identify a fucking whore versus a really good girl. There's so many things that come into play, dude. That like just judging it based off one thing is definitely not it. That's not the way to go.
no.
Not at all.
I very rarely do just like talking points about people. This is not a philosophical breakdown. It's mainly like, get in the field and get the experience down under your belt, and you will grow as like you will grow and become a natural if you want. You can throw the lines away. That's the key. that you don't have to do that shit no more.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But no, these were good topics that we covered. Hope it helps all the guys. I agree 100%. Well, thanks for hopping on, Scotty. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
We'll be in touch, brother. Pretty